multi-platform here at Lifequest these days in the digital age. And I'm Leah Greenfield. I'm the program director. Gina Bridges is with us also. She's in the Lifequest office. She's running the show behind the scenes. And then our special guest today is Kenny Judd. And I'm really thrilled to have him with us. And he's going to tell you about the relationship Lifequest has developed over the past few years with Collette Travel. Kenny, do I have your title right? Regional Director of Sales?
Yep, you nailed it.
And where are you joining us from?
Hot Springs, Arkansas, so not too far away.
Not too far. We really have an exciting new destination to talk about, but I wanted Kenny to kind of bring us up to the present of where all have we traveled together? Where has Lifequest traveled with Collette recently?
We started this relationship, I'd say back in 2017, we started talking about, we had our first tour in 2018 to Ireland, which we were very excited about. We had about 10 people go on that trip. And then just recently in 2019, we had Spain's Classics that we were able to operate, and we had 12 people go on that. And we actually have a tour going this year. We had a few more signed up. Obviously with COVID, that hurt us a little bit, but we're going to Greece in November. And that trip is greenlit, ready to go. And so we're excited about that. And so this will be our third active trip. And we'll talk a little bit more about Rome and the Amalfi Coast. And we've already planned a couple of more later next year too. So we're excited about the future of travel.
We are too. And you know what, even if we can't go, we just are excited to talk about it and hear about it, because it really is something that I think many people are anxious to do, even to Hot Springs. That would be great right now, a welcome retreat. So go ahead. Yeah, we'd love for you to share information about Rome and the Amalfi Coast and whet our appetites.
All right. So do we need to go through our beginning slides?
I think we've
hit that? Okay.
On that. Yeah, so we're ready for whatever you want to share.
All right, perfect. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get started here. We're going to talk a little bit about Rome and the Amalfi Coast. We're very excited about this. This is one of my favorite tours, because who doesn't love Rome and who doesn't love the Amalfi Coast, especially when you're talking about food and all the things that are going to go along with it. This is something that for us, we have the opportunity to travel all over the world. Just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I am the regional director. I originally hail from Oklahoma, so I am a Sooner. However, I have adopted the Razorbacks as my secondary team. So we lived in New England for a couple of years, made our way back to the South, and we fell in love with Hot Springs. And so we decided to settle here. So my wife and two daughters, we have been here since about 2017. So actually kind of right when we started to develop that relationship with Lifequest. So I've actually coming into my 10th year with Collette. Some of my favorite destinations, and I'm telling you, this list could be incredibly long, but just some of the places I've been that I have to always take my wife back to. That's how I kind of designate some of these areas. But Switzerland, New Zealand, Machu Picchu, Prague, Vienna, Budapest, Ireland, and without a doubt, Italy. And I've had two different trips with my wife scheduled for Italy that have been canceled. So I too have been affected by COVID, just like everybody else. So we are excited that we're back on tour. And the reason that I've stayed in travel, and I always speak to this because I have a lot of people ask me questions about, when the pandemic hit, why didn't you leave? What were you going to do? Why are you still in travel? And these two quotes kind of sum it up the best. The best book I have ever read is Between the Pages of My Passport. I have a degree in history. I graduated from the University of Oklahoma, and it really is something that history comes to life when you're on these tours. And when you have the ability to actually stand in some of these areas, I kind of call the United States, we're kind of the teenagers of the world. We think we have a lot of history. We think we know it all. But when you're really standing in some of these areas, it just comes to life. And so for me, that's one of the reasons that I've stayed in travel. And of course, travel is the only thing that can make you speechless, only to become a storyteller later. I always put that one up there because I travel with a lot of salespeople. And as you can imagine, we're very used to talking. And so for us, all of a sudden to stand in Machu Picchu or, the pyramids and see 30 to 40 salespeople who are completely speechless, that truly tells you something about that destination. And so with that being said, if you've never heard or traveled with Collette, if you're new to us, we are the oldest major US tour operator. We are actually the second oldest tour operator in the world. And so, what we try to be is really the most inclusive 4-star guiding experience. We like to say we're a 4-star across the board with a 5-star experience. We really are kind of the pioneers when it comes to group travel here in the United States. We started all the way back in 1918. Funny enough, actually started coming out of a pandemic in 1918. So here we are back kind of, 103 years later, reliving kind of the same things. But things that we focus on tour, really making sure that we have perfected the tour pacing. You're not going too fast. You don't have too much going on. We want to work in some leisure time, but we also want to make sure it's a very inclusive package. Of course, the worry-free travel, transportation, the booking, everything is taken from beginning to end. And we do have the most seasoned team in guided travel. And what we mean by that is we actually have product managers and product designers who are out in these destinations creating the tour. So we're not just calling a tourism board and saying, hey, give us a Rome and Amalfi. We have people on the ground that are going, they're staying, they're eating, they're doing all the things that you're going to be doing to make sure that we're able to deliver that experience that you're looking for. And so, that's who we are as a business, and that's what we love. So we'll jump into Rome and the Amalfi Coast. As I mentioned, this is one of my favorite parts of the tour because Rome is very well known, and we all know that, but not a lot of people get down to the Amalfi Coast. And so, it is one of those things that so many people go to Rome and they hit Florence and Venice, but the Amalfi Coast is one of those areas where people come back and truly visit. And, the thing I love about Italy is I kind of tell people, listen, Italy can fit in basically inside of Kansas and Oklahoma, if you were about the size of the country. And the thing I love about that is each section of Italy is so unique and so different. And a lot of people give me funny looks when I say that, but I say, look at the United States, go to the Northeast, go to the West Coast, go to the South, all very, very different, including the Midwest. And that's very much how Italy is. So the wine, the food, the delicacies, they all do vary. And so we'll get to spend a little bit of time down on the Amalfi Coast. So we have 10 days, we have 13 meals that are included in this tour. So we fly into Rome. We have that overnight flight. The activity on this tour is a level 3. I'm just going to be very candid. There are certain areas inside of Italy you have to walk. And the reason is they say Rome wasn't built in a day, which is 100% accurate. But it also wasn't built for big motor coaches or a lot of walking areas. And so it's one of those things that some of the reasons that we have to walk in certain areas is just because that's the way it's built. But I would say, the difficulty walking is not an everyday challenge. But, I do always like to warn people, just be prepared. You are going to be doing a little bit of walking. But without a doubt, we're going to take care of everything from beginning to end. So we're going to fly in. We'll have that overnight flight. We're going to get 3 nights in Rome before we head down to the Amalfi, where we're going to get 5 nights. The thing I love about this itinerary is there's only 2 hotels. I always ask people why they love cruising, and every time I hear the same thing. So I don't have to pack and unpack. Well, we only have to pack and unpack twice on this. And we're actually going to fly out of Naples, as you can see here, which really cuts, going all the way back to Rome a lot shorter. And so our people have loved that kind of flow of the tour. So we'll begin our adventure here in the internal city. We're going to fly into Rome. We'll have that overnight flight. You'll arrive roughly sometime in the morning. We'll get you settled in. We'll take your bags. We'll make sure that everything's put away, and then you're going to have some free time. Rome is truly, a sprawling cosmopolitan city, nearly 3,000 years of influential art, architecture, cultural displays, it. And of course, Rome is also known for the smallest state in the world, which is Vatican City, which of course headquarters the Roman Catholic Church and boasts the St. Peter's Basilica and the Vatican Museum as well. So we'll give you a little bit of free time in that afternoon. We're going to bring everybody back this evening. We're going to have a fantastic welcome dinner. We will have the opportunity to kind of get to know some of your other travelers, get to know your tour manager a little bit better. And then, all of our meals, we're going to be featuring some of those local delicacy. And in Italy, we couldn't come out here without plenty of wine, of course. The following day, we'll get started on a locally guided tour of classical Rome, kind of walking through some of those cobblestone streets, the different passageways. And of course, we're going to discover some of the famous sites, such as the Piazza Navona, And, the city square in Rome was actually built on the site of the stadium in the 1st century AD. And so it really follows the form of that open space of the stadium. And as you come into these squares, you'll really notice that these squares mean so much more than just a place of gathering. There's restaurants, there's shopping, but these were very historic areas for people to gather, and really could be speeches, could be, what we would consider the daily news, as people are kind of yelling out, what's happening within the Roman Empire and the things that are going on from day to day. We'll also have the opportunity to see the iconic Trevi Fountain. This is one of the oldest water systems in Rome. So you'll be able to toss a coin in the waters. And of course, legend has it that if you do, you will return to Rome, which we all know that we want to return to Rome as much as possible. And then we'll meander through Rome's kind of Renaissance district and really see the mythic Pantheon. And this iconic building features the world's largest unreinforced dome, almost 2,000 years after it was actually built. And for me, these are things that I fall in love with because I drive all over the United States. I fly all over the United States. And it fascinates me that I can't drive on a highway that is constantly being built. Living here in Hot Springs, I can't tell you, driving to Little Rock on I-30, right there near Benton. I mean, that thing's been under construction for 4 or 5 years. And so seeing the unbelievable construction and some of the things that have lasted 2,000 years, truly fascinating to me. So we'll learn a little bit about that. We'll also be able to recount the rich history, of course, of the Colosseum with an in-depth visit with a guide walking into the footsteps of the former gladiators attendees. As I mentioned, we don't just drive by. We're going to stop. We're going to go in. We're going to spend some time. The structure was built in the 1st century AD as a place of celebration for gladiators, games, and of course, public spectacles. We all know that what kind of happened. It was slaves fighting for their freedom and what that looked like. The structure itself has been preserved in his open air museum that really highlights the kind of architectural expertise of the ancient Romans. Fascinating stop here. And of course, I always tell all of my travelers, be prepared. We might throw you in there and you may have to battle for your return back home, live as the gladiators once did. That'll end our day, and then we'll head back. You'll have a little bit of leisure time this evening. And then day 4, we're going to have a full day at leisure, really to explore Rome's cultural treasures. We do have an option today in the afternoon. You'll have the opportunity to visit. If you do not want the option, you'll have free time. That's totally fine. But the pre-sold option is the Vatican Museums and St. Peter's Basilica, probably our most popular option, I would say. And of course, we don't include it because some people are not interested, but I would highly recommend this. The Vatican Museums, not only home of the world's greatest collections of art, but also the world famous Sistine Chapel. There are priceless artifacts from ancient Egypt, Etruscan Italy, the cultures around the world preserved in the Vatican's palaces, the galleries, the halls, the rooms. We'll have a local expert guide on a 3-hour in-depth visit, really to have the opportunity to visit this vast collection. We'll highlight some of include the Gallery of Maps, the Gallery of Tapestries, and of course, the visit to the Sistine Chapel, which of course, the famous ceiling frescoes took Michelangelo 4 years to complete. His brilliant Last Judgment, which rests on the altar wall, was a topic of controversy for centuries. And so there's so much history here. And it is even said that Michelangelo had massive back issues after actually finishing the fresco on the ceiling. And so we'll learn a little bit about that. Again, if you're not interested in that option, you'll have the day free to yourself to enjoy Rome. And then day 5, we're going to leave Rome. We're going to set journey south as we come to really home to one of Europe's most breathtaking coastlines as we drive down the Amalfi Coast. But as we make our way down south, we're going to stop in Monte Cassino. And this is a beautiful area perched right on a hill about 80 miles south of Rome. It's home to the monastery of St. Benedict, which of course the patron saint of Europe and the founder of Western, monasticism. And some of its founding by St. Benedict in AD 529. The monastery has a very troubled history, suffering from repeated attacks, pillage, and natural disasters. So we'll have the opportunity to spend a little bit of time here. We'll walk through, we'll have our guide take us through and give us a lot of in-depth information. And it's perched on a mountaintop. So that played a pivotal role actually in World War II. It suffered severe damage during the war, and we'll be able to learn a little bit about that, discover its history while exploring the ornate chapel and some of the beautiful courtyards as well. And then in the afternoon, we're going to settle into the Amalfi Coast. And this is your home for the next 5 nights. As you can see, I feel like anytime I see pictures of Italy, this is kind of what I see: the mountains, the coastline, the houses built right into the mountain. Truly spectacular views throughout. We're staying in a fantastic hotel, and so you'll have beautiful views throughout. Day 6, we're going to drive along the stunning Amalfi Coast, of course, pausing for beautiful pictures. You'll see some of the pastel colored houses, the beautiful pebbly beaches. We'll spend time in the town of Amalfi, which is, a quiet coastal town, really full of hidden historic landmarks and kind of that black and white marble cathedral that we'll have time to visit and spend a little bit of time in. And between the 9th and the 11th centuries, it was the seat of the powerful maritime republic. And so, the Arab Norman Cathedral at the heart of the town was really stripped by the facade and survived from this area. And you'll be able to see, the unique architecture that kind of falls into this arena as we have the opportunity to spend a little bit of time here. And then we're going to explore on your own before continuing to Minori. And this is a small town, very famous for the always tasty limoncello, which is kind of a liqueur made from lemon rinds, alcohol, water, sugar. Always everybody's favorite, as we have a little tasting here. And we'll sample some of this tasty liqueur at a family-owned limoncello factory. We are a family-owned business. We want to visit family-owned and operated business and really immerse yourself into the culture. And what better way to do that than a little bit of tasting, including immersing yourself in some of the local customs during a typical Italian afternoon break. My wife loves Europe because for the fact that you can indulge in some of these scrumptious treats at a local cafe and pastry shop. The fact that it is very much a part of the afternoon, teas, crumpets, snacks, pastries, and coffee. I mean, what better is there to have for lunch and an afternoon snack than that? The following day, we'll begin your day exploring the popular and charming resort of Sorrento. Sorrento, very famous for, of course, the sea cliffs that they have, the town's kind of steep slopes, look over the beautiful water, and of course the Isle of Capri that you can see from out Sorrento. Probably the most known, iconic from a photography standpoint when you're really talking about the coastline. When you see pictures on magazines or brochures or whatever it may be, Sorrento is really that feeling. And we're going to have the opportunity to kind of explore this picturesque town full of shops, ceramics, lace work, as well as the wood inlay that are famously produced here. And one of my favorite things here is you'll wander through the narrow streets kind of the city center. And this is one of those areas that I always tell people, hey, listen, go get lost down the alleyways. You want to find some fun things as you kind of weave your way through. And of course, you'll have the opportunity to explore some of the peaceful courtyard of St. Francis Church, or sampling some gelato made with the local lemons. Gelato is a must. My guess is you'll have a little bit of gelato every single day. And then we're going to visit a local farm, and we're going to see how traditional mozzarella cheese is made. Of course, I have living in the Northeast, I have some Italian heritage reps that used to work for me. And so they used to always correct me that it's mozzarella. However, I'm from the South, so it is mozzarella cheese for me. We'll get a taste of the product at a farm to table lunch before returning to your hotel in the late afternoon. So you'll see throughout this tour, we really want to immerse you in the culture. We want to have that local feel, and what better way to do that than a farm to table lunch? As I mentioned, we'll return in the afternoon. You'll have the evening free to yourself. And then day 8, we're going to enjoy a day at leisure and take in the relaxing beauty of the Amalfi Coast. However, we do have another option. And today, perhaps you'll embark on an optional boat trip, weather permitting, to the Mediterranean Isle of Capri, where you'll enjoy a locally guided tour with lunch before setting out on your adventure. So we do have this option, which is bask in the beauty of Capri, as I just mentioned. And so you spend the entire day kind of in the Mediterranean paradise, the sparkling Bay of Naples. You'll be able to embark on the port of Salerno and delight in a cruise to the wonderful Isle of Capri. This is about a 9-hour day, so it has everything that you can imagine. We'll have a guided walking tour where you'll get to the picturesque hilltop, the botanical gardens, the beautiful areas that you'll be able to look out, and of course, see the coastline from a completely different perspective. This is a very popular option as well, and we'll actually have a special ride along that takes you back toward the Marina Grande to board your boat for the return back to the mainland. So there's so much to see and the Caprice Charms, elegant designer shops, have some coffee in the piazza, or simply watch the world go by. But a very popular option. If you are not interested in the option, then of course you have the day free to yourself. Day 9, we really get to take a step back in time as you explore the historic ruins of Pompeii. Of course, we know the history behind that. Now it has even made its way into some of the commercials. I've seen the Google talk where you can ask, the dad is talking to his daughter and asking, you know, when Pompeii happened and all the things from Mount Vesuvius. But you know, it is a fascinating step back in time to see the preserved original buildings of really what was a typical Roman town from nearly 2,000 years ago. We'll have a local guide really provide us with an in-depth historical tour of this remarkable archaeological site, learning the history, what happened. The site also features excavated ruins that visitors can freely explore yourself. So again, we're really getting in depth. We're giving you the ability to walk through here and really dive in. The houses still contain furniture, ornaments, gold, silverware, work tools, kitchenware, bronze, terracotta lamps, you name it, it is as it was back then. Even counters for serving drinks, where they ate, workshops for manufacturing cloth. It really is fascinating. Some of the outlets, the groceries, the fruits, the vegetables. You truly get an in-depth look of what it was like to live in a typical Roman town 2,000 years ago. Of course, without the finds made in Pompeii, virtually nothing would be known of everyday life in this ancient world. And so, you know, so much of the history that we learn and so much has been taken from Pompeii to really give us an in-depth look of what it was like back then. And so for me, having that degree in history, this is the reason I travel. This is what I want to see. This is what I want to understand, and why I'm so passionate about it. Following that, before, of course, leaving the historical area, we're going to stop at a local winery right at the foot of Mount Vesuvius to taste the famous La Crema. And this is the Christie wines, and enjoy a lunch made with a local fresh ingredients and a Neapolitan specialties. So I talked about Rome having one province. As we get down to the south, you have a completely different influence from the food, the wine, and all that it has. We'll enjoy a little bit of free time, and then we're going to bring everyone back this evening. And we're going to give you the opportunity to really join your fellow travelers for a farewell dinner and bid salute to the end of your Italian getaway. Just a magical trip. Fantastic. We're going to have a great meal. We'll toast to a fabulous trip. And then the following day, we will head home. And so some of the other things that are included, you can always personalize your trip. I talked about those pre-sold options. So we have 2 options on this tour. We can also upgrade you with elite airfare. So if you're looking to go business class or premium economy, the dining experiences, the local immersions, the optional excursions that we talked about. You can also go in early or stay a little bit later if you're interested in that. We have our pre and our post nights. So if you're interested in either one of those, we are happy to send you in early and send you back home. We will take care of all the arrangements. It doesn't change anything for you. We'll handle everything from beginning to end. But the other and maybe the most important thing is our no worries travel protection. And, you know, I've seen a lot of people from the pandemic coming out with all kinds of new policies. This has been our policy for the last 40 years, and we have not changed it at all. You can cancel for any reason up until 24 hours before you depart and get a full cash refund, of course, less the insurance. You know, during COVID, we actually gave back over $150 million to our travelers. And that's something we're very proud of. We didn't give them a voucher. We didn't make them stick with the money. We gave them the option to move their money. We did give them an option for a voucher if they would like, knowing that they were going to still travel with us. Or, of course, we refunded over $150 million, as I mentioned. But it's not just about canceling and getting a refund. It also covers you medically on tour. So while you're on tour, if you get sick, evacuation, lost baggage, which has never happened to anybody in the history of airline travel, but if you're the first to lose your bag, don't worry, we've got you covered. We will take care of everything for you. And of course, your initial insurance is billed. Once it declines, then our secondary insurance kicks in and picks up the bill. We have our loyalty program as well. So for those that have traveled with us in the past, we talked about Ireland, we talked about Spain. We're going on Greece. So the people that are going on Greece, for instance, here in November, will have the opportunity. They'll actually get $150 off of this Rome trip. If the people that went on the Spain trip decide to sign up, they will actually get $100 off. And you will need to make sure that your passport is up to date. There is not a visa that is needed on this particular tour, but you do want to make sure your passport is valid for up to 8 months before you return. And what I'm telling people right now, this tour, we are about 6 to 8 months. We're leaving next March. You want to make sure if you need a passport that's updated, go ahead and do that now, because the passports are taking anywhere from 4 to 6 months. And so we want to make sure and get those in. So if yours expires next year, I would go ahead and get a renewal so that you don't have to worry about that moving forward. And I did put this in the chat as well, and feel free to type in any questions into the chat, or here in a second, I'll open it up and you can feel free to unmute and ask your questions. But this is going to be posted on Facebook. It's going to be on the website. This is a link with just a little bit more information about the tour, travel tips, weather, all the fun stuff that goes into any of the tours that you may have questions about. And you can actually sign up directly through this web link as well. You just click the sign up now, and it'll bring you to the page, and you just fill out your information. Please make sure you have your passport ready and your credit card good to go. The deposit for this tour is $999. That does include your waiver. So it's $600 for the deposit. It is $399 for the waiver. It is 100% refundable up until September 19th, which I know is only a few days away. But after September 19th, the only thing that you lose is the cost of the insurance. Your final payment will be due on January 17th, and your total price, $3,398 plus $399 if you're interested in the waiver. So as I've said, we've had a lot of great travelers over the past few years. The Greece tour, I think at one point we had about 25 people signed up. And so I know this is going to be one of those scenarios that people are excited about traveling. We're seeing the numbers come down, vaccinations come up, travel is getting back to normal. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about as well is the fact that we have been operating tours all year long. This is something that we have had the opportunity to go all over the world. We have had over 1,400 travelers traveling internationally. We have over 1,200 passengers on the road right now. So our protocols, our mandates, everything that we're doing, we are in a great flow right now. And we know that moving forward, there's going to be a lot of excitement about travel moving into 22. So after that September 19th tour, or that date, it will become kind of a first come, first serve. So you have your first glance to look in. If you want to get signed up, I highly recommend you do that. And at this point, I want to get into the chat room and see if there's any questions, or feel free to unmute and ask away. I'd love to answer any questions that I can at this time.
Okay, folks, we're ready for your questions. Fire away. If you can unmute yourself or turn your screen on, we'll see your faces. I can't see very many faces. How many of you have been on a Collette tour before? Yeah, you don't count.
Oh,
Y'all go ahead and unmute. And,
this is a shy group without their pictures going on.
Well, I know. They're being very quiet. We're looking at Facebook too. I think Kay's trying to unmute. I want to be one of those people that goes out and investigates and tries out the hotels and restaurants and kind of works out the kinks. How do I do that?
I get a lot of requests for that. They want to go and test it ahead of time. I know that a lot of the questions surrounding COVID. So, I'll kind of answer a couple of those. I'm sure there's a couple of questions about that. Kay, you did unmute. Do you want to go ahead and ask your question first?
I didn't have a question yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I thought I saw you trying to unmute yourself. Okay.
No problem.
I was wondering if anybody had been on a Collette tour.
Yeah. So one of the questions, that we're getting a lot of is what are the protocols? What are the mandates? And, it is a very fluid scenario. Right now, Italy just adjusted some of the rules that you do have to test going into the country, regardless of your vaccination. But again, we have plenty of people traveling. I actually just did a presentation last week. We did what we call a document party, and we have about 25 people getting ready to go to Italy. Very simple process. They take an antigen test. Wear your mask on the plane, of course, as it is. But within Collette, all of our vendors, hotels, everybody that we contract and work with, we have very specific protocols that are set in place. And so our tour managers are up to date with all of the CDC protocols and everything that's happening. One of the questions that I'm getting is, hey, Kenny, I see that right now the CDC has labeled a certain area level 4. And that's a valid question. And I know that people are concerned about that. And some of the statistics and some of the things that we're looking, the CDC bases that decision on really the unvaccinated population. So when we're talking about these areas, 48% of the United States currently is unvaccinated. It was the opposite about a month ago. We were only at about 49% as a country. So we're really excited to see the numbers coming up. But, with that being said, the CDC and the government has to make a lot of stipulations based on the unvaccinated, not necessarily the vaccinated. And so we're looking at a lot of different protocols. I'll give you an example. Italy is at 60% of their entire population, and they have 73% less cases than the United States per million people. That's a statistic when we're looking at then, hey, we feel very comfortable about we're requiring vaccinations for all of our tours starting November 1st through April 30th. B, we're looking at those numbers, understanding that they are in a much better scenario than we are even per cases. So I don't want anybody to think we're not making these decisions. We are looking at all of the data points. We're looking at all the decisions before we decide to greenlight a tour. But feel free to ask questions and let us know, because I know there's been a lot of confusion about, I read this on a headline or I saw this, and I understand that. And so that's what our job is. We have a team monitoring 24/7, all of the world activities, numbers, COVID cases, flights, you name it, anything inside the travel industry, we've got people monitoring. So we're going to make sure.
I have a question about that real quick. I know, I'm the one that bugged you about my daughter who was going to Paris. I had to ask him on the side, and she's fine. She's loving it. But right after she got there, Paris started restricting folks from the United States. So she got over okay, and getting to, she's probably safer where she is COVID-wise than where she was in Arkansas. But they are aware of that, and so they were restricting travel from the United States. A couple of questions on Facebook. One person, let me get back up here. One person says, is it possible to use a motorized scooter instead of walking?
Unfortunately, it's not. I never want to turn away a passenger, but I'm very, very candid when I talk about travel. And because Europe doesn't have the ADA, the American Disabilities Act, they're not always equipped, especially with the motor coaches for a motorized scooter. So, unfortunately, you will have to be able to walk in some of these areas to participate in some of the tour. Doesn't mean you have to do all of the walking. There are times where we do locally guided tours that we say, hey, just meet us on this end, or the guide will take you by the motor coach and you can wait at the end. But unfortunately, motorized scooters are a bit of a challenge on these tours.
Okay, well, we appreciate your candidness. Sandy on Facebook has taken 4 groups on Collette tours and all rated well. Everyone rated those well.
Well, we like to hear that.
Yeah, so that's good. I know that the Spain and Ireland group, because we were Sandy Doyle Jones. I don't know if you know that name, but I asked for her name. Thank you, Sandy, for that. And I know the Spain and the Lifequest members that went to Ireland and Spain. I mean, I think there were some long-lasting friendships that were developed among our members. Diana, yes, I see you. Do you have your hand raised?
Yes, I do. I'm turning on my videos. So
thank you.
I'm blind. I'm blind, and I was wondering if Collette can accommodate someone who's visually impaired or blind. Would I be able to team up with a guide, who could take me through the cobblestone streets? And
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, one of my best travelers out of Oklahoma, he's traveled, I think, on about 10 or 11, and he is visually impaired, and he goes on all of the tours. And so that is not a problem at all. We can accommodate, and we are prepared for that. Absolutely.
I went on a tour with my sister a couple of years ago, and we went to Prague, and we went to Budapest, and we went on a riverboat cruise.
Yeah.
And we did all the tours and everything, but they had a level where I called it the wuss tour, to where I didn't have to walk quite as fast, but we were able to go, and see a lot of things. And Um,
Yeah.
So are there different levels of intensity for these tours too?
I wouldn't say that we have a lot of different levels. The riverboats are very different because they can accommodate, but we do understand that, from a pacing perspective, we like everything to be very leisurely paced. We're not trying to wear anybody out. And so the guides can take their time and walk through. And when we're in areas, we want to spend time in those areas and really kind of immerse ourselves. So nothing's happening, we're not flying by anywhere or running through anything. We want to spend the time. And so I don't think you'll have any problem at all.
Right, those cobblestone streets. I mean, I can do them, but I just have to have a little more time sometimes.
Understood. Absolutely.
What's a typical size group? Like, what would you anticipate for the Rome Amalfi tour group? And I know they're not all Lifequest members, so they may be coming from different parts of the country.
Yeah, they may. We max this out at 44. I'd say we average about 35 on this particular tour. And so you're going to have the ability to really, kind of enjoy it, walk through. We're going to continue as long as CDC and these governments are, we're going to have opportunity to social distance a little bit on the motor coach. We're going to leave about 25% of the motor coach open for people to spread out. But, around 35 to 38 is always a good number on these tours. And for me, you're right. It could be all Lifequest. I would love that. It could be a mix of different people. But one of the things that I love about this, is that people truly do make lifelong friends. They meet people. I've met people. I had a call. My wife and I went on a tour and had a call just the other day from some friends that we made out in Oregon, and they're wanting us to come out. And that was 4 years ago when we were in France. And so, I've had the opportunity to become friends with people all over the world. And that's why I love group travel. It really is the best way to go. And I don't just say that because I work for a company like Collette. My wife and I truly love it. We don't have to think about it. We meet all kinds of interesting, fantastic people. And that's what group travel is all about.
Takes a lot of pressure off too. Well, speaking of that, we have another question from Sandy Dole Jones. She asks, when is this trip? So tell us the dates again. And can she share it with her people in South Carolina? She's in Greensboro, South Carolina, maybe at a Shepherd Center. Shepherd Center is our umbrella organization over Lifequest. So it would be other similar aged participants, and she would like to share that information. We can give you that contact information, Sandy.
Yeah, Sandy, it's going to be from March 18th through March 27th. It's 10 days. We have 13 meals that are included. And there is a web link that I put into the chat. And if you grab that web link, you can share that out. It's got all the information, the dates. People can sign up directly through there. And it's all connected to this particular booking. So it makes things very easy. And we can fly them out of South Carolina or really any gateway that they want to. So when they fill that out, they'll just put whatever gateway that they want to travel out of, and our team will make the arrangements and handle that. But I would say that web link is probably the best way to get that out there, because you can sign up there. Again, they can put in their gateway. But yeah, we would love to have people. We have people from all over the U.S. travel with us, and we love that.
Gina just let me know that link is on our Facebook page.
Great.
And that Sandy, I didn't know, is the executive director of the Shepherd Center in South Carolina. So I'm thrilled that she's able to be here with us today and can help distribute the information. So look on Facebook, Lifequest of Arkansas for, and this is our public page, Lifequest of Arkansas Facebook page for the link, the Collette travel link. One of the other things that I really appreciate, Kenny, is that we've gotten to know you, and we've had you with us. We're going to have Kenny back because we have twisted his arm really hard. No, I'm kidding. And he will be back with us in the winter to talk to us again 2 more times about upcoming trips. So just having a familiar face that has talked to us several times before is just really helpful. So you can never quit your job.
No, I'll be here forever.
Because we get to know you and we know where to find you, and it makes it easier, and it makes us trust Collette and how they run their business. And then having these repeated trips is a good thing too. I think we've got time for what, Gina, cut me off. We got time for one more question.
If anyone has a question, feel free to ask or type it in the chat and we'll relay it. We still have a few minutes.
Yeah, Gina is doing a good job of forwarding these questions written in from Facebook and from the chat, but I'd love for anybody to do what Diana did and just unmute yourself. Mike, I see you up here. Leinhardt, Kay, Joanne, Marianne,
I mean, I
Mike.
may have just done such a great job answering questions throughout, you know, maybe that.
That's what it is. Mike, you unmuted. Do you have a question?
No, you've done a good job on the presentation. I appreciate the information. Thank you.
Okay, well, say hi to Patty.
All right. All right.
We do have couples traveling, don't we, Kenny? Don't we often have couples on this trip, and sometimes they become couples with our single travelers that travel. So
That's right. There's no doubt about that. We have couples traveling all the time. You know, they tend to be some of my favorite travelers. You know, because usually I can tell the men may not want to do all of the things, and the women are gung-ho and dragging them along. And then by the end, the men are the one talking about how much fun they had. And so for me, I always get a good kick out of that, because it's no doubt the women are the leaders on these trips, but you know, the men, they come away with a completely different perspective, and it's so much fun to see. And you nailed it. You know, we have some of these single travelers that come along, they have the ability to connect with people, and you know, even from different parts of the world, they stay in touch, and who knows what happens from there. But you know, we don't have a say in it. We keep our hands out of it, but we sure don't discourage it either. We love for everybody to make connections on these tours, whether it be friends, loves, whatever it may be. It's a great way to travel, and there's no better time to get to know somebody than by sipping a glass of wine in Italy. I can tell you that.
Oh, yeah, well, you've held this program at lunchtime, and it showed all that great pasta and pastries. And so now we're all very, very hungry. Kay, yes, ma'am. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Wait, we can't hear you yet. Just a sec. Let's give her a minute. Can you unmute? She's trying.
A minute ago. Some of these technology is finicky, I can tell you.
All right, you have to kind of wake up your toolbar by touching your screen and then your little old-fashioned microphone. She just can't see it.
She was unmuted for quite a while, and now it's hidden from her.
I know.
Okay,
Hey, if I send you a chat message, maybe you'll see that and you can type it into chat, okay?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Right in the nick of time.
You have questions that we can think of later on. So how would we approach that? Do we send them to you?
Could you
yeah,
say that one more time?
What she was asking is if they have questions later that they think of, how do they contact you for more information, or do they contact Lifequest and we send it to you? How would you like that to work?
Yeah, go ahead and contact Lifequest, and then they'll send it over, and I'll get all the questions answered. You know, right now, especially going into Collette, we are swamped with all kinds of calls and questions of people traveling. So the easiest way is just come to Lifequest, and Leah or Lindy will fire it over to me, and I'll get them a response ASAP.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You can just call the office if you need to as well. So call or email would be great. That's a great question, Kay. I have just one last question, because I was reminded seeing Kenny that I did talk to you about my daughter's trip, because in France they required a health pass. It's called a pass sanitaire, and it was brand new for French people. And so it was really difficult for anybody else to figure out how to get one. French people didn't even know how to get one. And it's a proof of vaccination card. It's a QR code. It's on your phone, like one of those black and white squares. And so she is required, and I'm glad she finally got one. She had to go through the State Department, but this is what admits her into museums and restaurants, which is a really big thing you don't want to miss in Paris. Is something like that being required in other places in Europe? Have you heard any more?
Yeah, so a lot of the countries are adopting it, and they're calling it the EU digital certificate. You know, each country is kind of calling it something different. France was actually the first to implement it, and they were the first ones to kind of jump the gun with it, if you will. A lot of the other countries are starting to adopt it. Italy, for example, right now is you fill out a form, just basically saying that you're coming. You can kind of upload your certificate from there, and they track it that way. So it just kind of depends on the country. Everybody's got their own protocol. The EU has mandated some things, but then they're very much like the United States. The government can mandate something across the board, but then the state level really has the decision to do what they want to do. And that's kind of how the EU in each country is as well. So Hopefully as this starts to die down, because we are seeing numbers come down, vaccination rates come up, herd immunity, all those fun things, we're kind of hoping by the fall we get into this, things are going to calm down. And I would say this as well. I really do encourage people, particularly this time of year, because we're getting into March 18th of next year when we travel. It is a great time to get to Italy. Italy is going to explode next summer with passengers and travelers because everybody's been dying to get to Italy, and we've had these challenges. And so I have been telling my people, listen, if you want to get there before the rush comes, you want to travel on a tour basically in March and April like we have scheduled, so that you can kind of beat the crowd before the summertime. Because I can promise you next summer, Europe, specifically Italy, is going to be flooded with tourists. And so get there before the rush on so you can kind of enjoy it and kind of have a little bit of your own Italy tour to yourself.
I think you're
Every time
exactly
Italy-
right.
Sorry,
What?
I was going to say, every time Italy comes up in the office, we threaten to close down the office of Lifequest and classes so that all 4 of us can go.
That's right.
I think that's absolutely essential. After this pandemic, I think that's absolutely essential. Well, and I agree with your timing. I keep mentioning my daughter, but she keeps texting me. Being in Paris right now is very low tourism because of the pandemic, but it is open. And with a vaccination card, you feel a little safer, going into places. But it's not very high crowds. The numbers are really down. And so, I mean, if that's the way it is for Italy next spring, that would be perfect. I mean, just that little window before everybody decides to go make a run on it. All right, we are out of time. I have learned so much. You did exactly as promised. You whet our appetites. You got us excited. Now I'm just really ready to go somewhere, even to lunch, because I'm really hungry. Thank you so much, Kenny. And we will see you back in the winter term to talk to us about what's coming up next. So be safe, travel safely, and everybody, we'll see you for the next Lifequest class. Give us a call if you have any questions.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
A pleasure. Thank you.